So my sister moved back home at 26 after a breakup, which was fine. It was her home too. Our parents were happy to have her, and honestly at the start I was happy too. I visited more, we had dinners together, it felt like something was back that had been missing. But here's the thing about my sister Sophie. She expands, like she just quietly fills whatever space is available to her without really noticing she's doing it. And over the course of about 4 months I watched her slowly, completely, take over the house. My old bedroom, where I still kept boxes of my things, where I stayed when I visited, got tidied. My boxes moved to the garage. My shelf cleared. A diffuser appeared on the windowsill. Sophie's books on the shelf where my things used to be. When I asked about it, she said, I didn't think you needed the space since you don't live here anymore. I don't live there anymore, but it was still my room. It still had my name in it. In my head. In the way I had always thought about home. Then my mom started calling me Les. Not because anything was wrong, but because Sophie was there. And Sophie was filling the gaps that I used to fill. The Sunday dinners I used to come to? Sophie was cooking them now. The errands my dad and I used to run together. Sophie was going with him. The conversations my mom and I used to have on the phone. They were happening in the kitchen now, in person, with her. And I know that sounds petty. I know how it sounds. But one evening, I drove over for Sunday dinner and sat at the table and watched my family laugh at something Sophie said and felt like a guest. In the house I grew up in. At the table I had sat at my whole life. I felt like a guest. I didn't say anything that night. I drove home and I cried in the car and I told myself I was being ridiculous. But the feeling didn't go away. It got worse. 2 months later, my mom mentioned casually that Sophie had suggested converting my old bedroom into a proper guest room. With new furniture. A proper redecoration. She said it like she was sharing good news. And that was the moment I stopped being quiet about it. I said, Mom, that is my room. She said, you haven't lived here in 4 years. I said, that doesn't mean it stops being mine. That doesn't mean you get to hand it to Sophie and redecorate it without asking me. That doesn't mean I stop being part of this family just because I'm not physically in the house. My mom went quiet. Then she said, I didn't realize you felt pushed out. And those 5 words undid me completely. Because she hadn't realized. She genuinely hadn't seen it. Which meant it had been happening without anyone intending it. Which is somehow so much lonelier than if someone had meant to do it. Sophie and I had a conversation the following week. She was defensive at first. She said she wasn't trying to take anything from me. She said she was just living her life. I said, I know you weren't trying to. But you did, and I needed you to know that. She cried. I cried. It was messy and honest, and we said things we had been sitting on for years about each other. About who was the favorite. About who got more. About old wounds that had never properly healed. My bedroom stayed as it was. No redecoration. My boxes came back from the garage. And Sophie started calling me before Sunday dinner to make sure I was coming. It is not perfect, but it is better. But I think about that night at the table sometimes. Feeling like a guest in my own family. And I think about how easy it is for someone to take up so much space that the people who used to live there don't quite fit anymore. Not on purpose. Just by being present when you're not. And how much that cost. Even when nobody meant it to.